The American media has done a wonderful job of making us believe that we have two options politically. We are either liberal or conservative, and apparently there's no middle ground. The truly amazing part is that both sections of the American political system have lost their way, becoming so far from their intended forms that they wouldn't even be recognizable to voters from years past. Moreover, we as a nation used to stand for one thing: independence. That spirit is dead. Instead, both parties scrambled to create more and more government agencies and more regulations for them to enforce. The Liberal Party, the one that should be in favor of progressive changes to bring about equality worldwide, was demanding an end to a war that brought the hope of equality and relative freedom to millions, abandoning their beliefs for the sake of what is politically expedient. While the Conservative Party, that has stood in the past as the sentry protecting individual liberties, passes legislation in hopes of further conducting surveillance on its own citizens and slowly whittling away protections guaranteed in the Bill of Rights. The basic idea in the Bill of Rights is the right to do whatever you choose to, so long as it does not impact another person. Yet today we find adherents to both political parties demanding more and more restrictions to be placed on others' rights. A person whose true ideology is one of supporting freedom is left out in the cold, when no major party or even news outlet to call their own. Instead, we are forced to choose between candidates that only have their own best interests at heart, and that have abandoned the principles on which the country was founded. Both sides tout themselves as protectors of the American dream and call on the names of those who came before as proof. Liberals love to compare themselves to the Camelot era of Kennedy, brushing aside the fact that the very man they hold as their guiding spirit began military actions in Vietnam and Cuba for the express purpose of bringing freedom to those countries. While the conservatives point to our founding fathers and imagine themselves as kindred spirits of some sort, a concept that certainly has them spinning in their graves fast enough to power a turbine. Do you really believe that the man that said the government is best which governs less would approve of the constant calls for new measures to protect the homeland by spying on their citizens? We could once depend on the Supreme Court to provide a modicum of defense against congressional and executive advances against our freedoms. However, the court is now nothing more than yet another tool to take those freedoms away, in the train wreck that is what used to be our system of checks and balances. It is a court that allows detention without warrants, secret indictments, and the use of unnamed informants in criminal trials in the federal judicial system that is now so corrupt that they achieve a 97% conviction rate at trial, which is almost 3 times that of most states. So where does that leave the average American that wants nothing more than to enjoy the liberties that were supposed to be protected? Third parties have made bold attempts at trying to enter the political discourse, yet most are nothing more than disaffected members of the 2 larger parties jockeying for political leverage. What we will soon see is a pendulum shift to a socialist government or to a fascist one. When the average American voter, a person that most likely cannot find Afghanistan or perhaps even the United States on a map, finally has had enough, they will look for a new leader. That leader will be one that is charismatic and promises to lead them back to the glory days. But that leader will need their cooperation and the authority to make the changes necessary. The American people will gladly hand over what remains of their freedoms to be led into the desert in search of the water of liberty, and finding none, they will drink sand. But some of us have a plan, and I'm part of the plan.